Welcome, everybody. Tonight, my name is Charlene Margot. I'm co-founder of nonprofit The Parent Venture, and we are delighted to have with us tonight Dr. Andrea Archibald, who's going to be talking with you about happy, confident, and strong tips for helping your child develop a healthy body image. Welcome, Dr. Andrea Archibald.
Thank you so much, Charlene. I'm delighted to be here and kick off your 2025 series. Congratulations on your 19 years. We're talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I've always ever worked in girls' development and leadership. And I think necessary to both of those is feeling confident and comfortable in one's own skin. I'll be talking tonight about both girls and boys' body image. And I will be talking about tips that parents, caregivers, and really anyone who cares about girls and boys can use to help them develop strong and positive body images. So let's talk first about what body image even is. It's really how we think or feel about our bodies or our appearance more generally. It doesn't just affect our sense of ourselves, but also our relationships, how we interact with others, the activities and health behaviors we choose to engage in or not, our overall willingness to do certain things, and our overall mental health. Now, body image is also one of the prime components of one's mental health, and it's related to different aspects of our psychological well-being. If we feel happy, confident, and strong because our body image is a positive one, that's all pretty well aligned and good. However, if our body image is negative and is bringing us down, it might drive us to feel more anxious, depressed, have low self-esteem. It might drive us to engage in unhealthy eating or exercise behaviors. Now, much of the body image research, and some of the research that I even participated in when I was a graduate student at Columbia, or when I was a Mellon Fellow at the Western Psychiatric Institute and Clinic, really focused on women's weight and shape and their comfort, satisfaction, or dissatisfaction with their weight or shape. However, the literature has expanded appropriately to also include boys and men, as well as elements of our appearance more generally. So our skin tone, our hair texture, muscularity, all of these things. And they really all go in together to form how we feel and think about our body. I'm really excited to be talking today to parents and caregivers because parents and caregivers and their ideas and their ideals around body image are really influential on their children's. So that's incredibly important. Society's ideals are also incredibly important. Our culture influences us in direct, subtle, and not so subtle, I should say, ways. So an important topic. If I had to sum it up, I might say that body image is the extent to which we are comfortable in our own skin. As Charlene and I were speaking before the call, I was saying how popular this topic always is because as adults, we have to reconcile with our own body image every day. And even if we have some challenges around our own body image, we rarely want to influence our child in the same way. We want them to always grow up in a more confident and strong way than perhaps we did. And while the culture has changed slightly and is perhaps more accepting of a diversity of body types and styles, it still has a great influence on how young people see themselves and behave today. So really excited to be kicking off this conversation. When I think about body image, and significant influences on it. As a developmental psychologist, I like to think about the when and the why, the ages and stages that body image can be strengthened and or can be impacted more negatively. So I'm going to talk at first about developmental stages in kind of wide groups. We'll start with early childhood, and I would say early childhood, like the preschool years into the early elementary years. So at this stage, kids are pretty confident about their bodies. They're starting to understand and develop likes and dislikes about their own body and become more aware of theirs in relation to others. They're not generally doing harsh comparisons, though, which is a really good thing. I like to say ignorance is kind of bliss. They're strong and confident in their own self, but they're understanding the landscape. So that is, they might say, Olivia is tall. I want to be tall like Olivia someday. They might be focused on what bodies can do. This is also a really good thing. They might say, I can dance in a silly way. I can climb to the top of the jungle gym. I can jump over that rock. I can run really fast. These are all things that as parents and caregivers, we really want to reinforce what their bodies can do, how capable they are, not necessarily what they look like. They will, of course, be paying attention to what others look like. And this is that understanding the landscape that I was talking about. I'm remembering when, so I'm a mom actually of two young boys. I was at Girl Scouts of the USA and working with girls for many, many years. But I'm the mom of two, I'm the mom of two boys. And when one of my sons was younger, I think he was probably 2 or 3, even maybe 3. We were sitting in a waiting room, and a larger woman went by, and he turned to me and he said quite loudly, "Wow, she's really big." And I said, for now, of course, at first I was a little flustered. I didn't want the woman to hear and or be negatively impacted. This is my work, right? So I said, "She is really big, and someday you'll be bigger too. Right now you're really small." And thankfully that came. It was probably not as articulately or quickly responded, but anyway, that came up right away, and that's very typical of young kids. They are kind of taking in the world, commenting on it, but not necessarily comparing themselves to others they see around them. Um, and that's good because ultimately, as they get older and more cognitively capable, they can make comparisons and they can come to understand that society has a pretty limited ideal around beauty and gender. When I think about the limiting ideals around beauty and gender, I'm also reminded of a lecture that I went to as when I was a graduate student at Columbia. I was listening to a graduate student of Carol Gilligan's, a developmental psychologist, and she had assessed different greeting cards um, that were designed to be given to parents of newborn girls versus parents of newborn boys. Now, this is some years ago, so hopefully they've changed in some ways. But these are some of the subtle or not so subtle influences from our culture that I was referring to earlier. Um, when you look at cards for parents of newborn girls, they talk about how their daughter is going to be beautiful, cute as a button. It's all about attractiveness. When you look at the cards for parents of newborn boys, it was more typically, at least at that time, about strength and capability, all of these things. Well, boys and girls, and of course their parents and caregivers, are taking in these things from day one. So really, it's hard to shelter our young people from these larger influences. But again, early preschool years through early elementary school years, a really great time to focus on your child's capabilities around their bodies and to lay the groundwork and the foundation for a strong and healthy body image. When we jump then to early adolescence, like the tween and early teen years, and particularly the time when girls and boys will be entering puberty, body image is greatly influenced. And it's influenced certainly by peers and by your one's ability to compare yourself to others and become more aware of beauty ideals, appearance ideals, and boys and girls have slightly different ones. Think back to those greeting cards. But it's really strongly influenced by pubertal timing. And I and my colleagues at Columbia University, Jeannie Brooks-Gunn and Julia Graber, have done a lot of research in this area. Now, pubertal timing refers to the time at which one enters and ends puberty, and particularly it's relative to one's age mates or peers. Now, it's interesting for girls being off time. That means being either an early mature relative to your peers or a late mature relative to your peers has a negative influence on body image. And I'll explain that in a minute. And for boys, being a late mature has a negative impact on one's body image. So for girls, if you think about puberty, a girl typically gains between, I think it's 15 to 50 pounds over the course of the pubertal transition. And typically, girls are gaining fat in their thighs, their hips, their breasts. This is all normal. Now, this fat distribution is not necessarily correlated with their increasing height. That might come a little later. And when you're going through all of these changes at a time when all you want to do is fit in and peer influence and peer acceptance has become increasingly important, this can become really hard and feel like a whole lot of pressure. So what we know about the girls who are early maturers, or they go through puberty first relative to their peers, is they feel larger and they feel kind of out of sync. Everyone else seems smaller and they don't seem like they match what society wants for them. Now, late maturing girls typically have the strongest body image until everyone else in their peer group seems to have caught up and gone through puberty. Then they typically start feeling a little left out. Perhaps they're not so attractive, they're not as stereotypically feminine, they feel kind of babyish. Now, speaking of babyish, boys who are late maturers, I mentioned, they have the risk of negative body image over on time or early maturing peers. Boys who mature early, their voices drop, they have a muscle spurt as opposed to a fat spurt that girls have. They have a strength spurt. These are all things that are prized for boys in our culture. So boys who are early maturing have really strong body images, and this often influences their peer acceptance and their social lives very positively. But late maturing boys tend to feel a bit left behind. They feel, again, kind of small, not as muscular. They might be teased for high-pitched voices and things like this. And late maturing boys tend to be at risk for negative body image which is then related to low self-esteem, perhaps teasing, etc. So the transition to and through puberty is really critical for body image. And even if you did your best to lay that foundation for a real strong body image in early childhood and the early elementary school years, you really want to be paying attention as your child, boy or girl's bodies are changing. Now, in the teen years, and here I'm talking about post-puberty, the middle teen years and maybe the later teen years. The biggest influence really now that is most unique is social media and media more generally, because social media and mass media tends to really glamorize a thin uh, ideal for girls and a more muscular, limited ideal for young men or boys. And social media is a main way of connecting and communicating among one's peers. Peers are also, or peers and classmates are also becoming more influential. And certain friend groups may also have beauty norms or fitness kind of norms within them. So you want to pay attention to your child's friend group, and be aware if your own child is feeling pressure to conform to unrealistic or unhealthy standards. Um, but on social media, you want to be aware of what your child is following. You want to be able to communicate with your child about what they're seeing on social media or in mass media, and sort of they can understand now, if you're having this conversation with them, that a lot of the images that they're seeing in social media or on television and in movies is altered with filters, with lighting, with AI to make people seem more attractive than they would be in person. This helps them understand, and perhaps be more accepting of their own and others' appearances. Um, these alterations are to make the media feel like a bit more entertaining, a bit more glamorous, right? It's not real life, and we have to be able to help our kids understand that. Um, Another thing about the teen years, families are still incredibly influential. We think they're not talking to us, but they are really listening to us, and they are watching us. They continue to do so. So I used to have this theory of parents and caregivers during the middle and especially the later teen years. When they're not talking to us, we still have to be around. We have to sort of exist as potted plants in the room. We never know when they may need us around body image or otherwise, and we have to be there for them. Kind of a quiet presence, but we still have a great influence. Our values are communicated in the ways in which we act, and again, they are watching. So teen years still incredibly important. Before we go to a conversation, Charlene, I wanted to share a question that I am often asked. Some people have asked, isn't it just normal for girls and for women to have a negative body image, to feel bad about themselves? Well, it's all too frequent for girls and women to feel, bad about their bodies given the standards that are proposed to us in society. It's not healthy and it's not inevitable. So the ways in which we can help our kids today, the things we'll be talking about tonight, I think it's really important to start, even if you haven't laid that groundwork in those early childhood years, to start changing some of the ways in which we support our young people, the ways in which we model our own behavior in front of them. That's again, that's one of the, that's one of the biggest challenges about this. We're adults and we might be, dealing with these things for ourselves too, but we always want to do better for our children.
Thank you, Dr. Archibald, for that really wonderful discussion. As a development educator, Bev and I, the founders of the nonprofit, are both developmental educators. And I really appreciate that you set the stage that way. Because, for example, the things that you were talking about with young children, it's true. They think about their actions. My shoes make me run really fast.
Yeah.
Now I'm 5, I can jump really high. And then it starts to change as they understand that they're more delineators, right? I
Hmm.
love teaching early childhood because we used to say they were kind of not impacted by society yet, right?
Yes, as they age, they're slowly released more fully into the world, is what I
Yeah,
have to say.
yeah,
They become less ours as parents, caregivers, and educators, and more the world, and more themselves, hopefully.
yeah. And it is interesting that you've spent all these years studying and researching and talking about girls' issues, but you raised 2 sons. I like that.
It keeps me balanced.
Exactly. So in looking at the developmental transition in this conversation, can you help us understand how we as parents and caregivers can help children and teens navigate body image, especially during puberty when things are changing so fast? Do you have some tips for that?
Sure. I think it's number one, it's paying attention at this time. Making sure that they understand the changes that are coming before they're happening. So to the extent that you can offer some pubertal education, if your school does not, some books, etc., so that they are ready for some of those changes, so that they're aware that these are coming, I think that always makes us a bit more confident. Um, it is also really helpful because I talked about pubertal timing relative to the peer group. Having those friends who are going through puberty at the same time that you are. If
Mhm.
you as an adult notices that your son is a late bloomer, so to speak, if there are some other children in even the wider friend group who are also, they might feel less alone. Suggest inviting them over or getting them on a team or what have you.
Okay, that's a really good tip. When you drive by and look at the 7th grade boys, you think
Yeah,
they can't possibly be in the same age
I
group,
know.
right?
It's all like this.
Yeah, yeah, it is
Exactly.
exactly. So
I
you're saying
remember there were kids with facial hair, shaving, and then there were children who looked like they could be, the older kid, the other kids were older and could be babysitting for them, but they were not. They were all the exact same age.
right, so you're suggesting finding a match both psychologically and perhaps physically for your child.
I think that's a great way of putting it. And sometimes they won't find that on their own. So, suggesting it, not because of that,
Mhm.
perhaps for another reason. Mhm.
Well, as you mentioned again, social media and all of that has brought with us so much change in terms of kids and body image. Uh,
Mhm.
but I remember when my own daughter was a teenager, you mentioned modeling. I remember her saying to me, "You're not very nice to yourself." And I thought,
Uh,
oh, oh, they are watching, and it isn't easy, but we can do that. My daughter's now a young adult in her 30s, but we talk a lot about how the
mhm.
discussions around body image went when they were young, because she was one of those kids who got kind of chubby in middle school and then got
Oh,
tall, but she felt very different than her peers, right? But it was just part of the process. But she didn't know that. We didn't know that. And this was in the kind of day, I hope they don't still do this, where they weigh the kids in PE and say their weight out loud. Those were hard days.
I can't imagine. I don't know of schools that would do that anymore, but and even BMI, body mass index as an indicator is going away because it's not that useful for predicting or aligning with other health outcomes because someone could be of a certain body mass index that would include them as perhaps a touch overweight, but they could be very strong. So I think those days are gone. I really hope so. I also hope so just because I want to take the emphasis off of weight and that's particularly for girls and women, but also, of course, for boys.
So, Andrea, how do you suggest that we parents talk to our girls or our boys about what they're seeing on social media?
Well, I think it's a little media literacy, as I talked about,
Yeah.
the lighting, the filters, the effects, etc. But it's talking to them about why they're following certain people, why they're friends or connected to certain people. You know about their friends in person. You
Hmm.
need to know about their connections or friends online as well.
Hmm.
Related to body image, what's incredibly important are influencers,
Hmm.
right? So if they're following a bunch of influencers who prioritize unhealthy and unattainable beauty ideals and are talking all the time about cosmetics and or surgeries or procedures or serums. Like the cosmetic industry has really boomed for tweens and teens. We want to shift that emphasis from simply appearance and looking a certain way to what we can do and what our value as young people truly is. We want to help boys and girls see their value is well beyond the package on the outside. It's what they can do, it's how they think, it's how they problem solve, how they're kind, um, all of those things.
Okay, because it's hard, but I think
Really.
asking those questions, parents like, who are you following now? Or who do you think is who are
Hmm.
your favorite influencers? They're very often people because of fitness or body type or eating or something about lifestyle and physical self. Yeah.
It is, but it's also what do you like about them,
Yeah. What do you like about them?
right? So it's not just who, but why. It's the why.
Okay.
And helping them to widen their world online and hopefully off as well. And then that's another thing for parents modeling. We can't constantly be online and on social media too, and then expecting our kids not to be, because again, they are watching.
Yeah, they are indeed. So, Andrea, I know we very carefully named this talk Helping Your Child Develop Healthy Body Image. So, I want to talk to you a minute about healthy eating habits.
Sure.
This is an area that keeps shifting, right? What is healthy food? Literally, again, my children were both really into this, but it does keep changing. So, again, how can we as parents encourage healthy eating habits and exercise without intentionally reinforcing appearance-focused messaging?
So I think it's really like food and exercise, especially early on, are great shared activities or
Mhm.
shared engagement opportunities. Not everyone or every family has the opportunity for a family meal every evening, but when you do have that together, food is fun, food is fuel, right? Food is celebrating, for traditions. I like to say there are no foods that are off limits. Of course, we want some foods to be sometime treats, not the everyday. Um, but it's really teaching kids and modeling ourselves food and balance. If you can also infuse family walks or bike rides, things like this, that again are for fun, not to earn a dessert
Mhm.
or to burn calories.
Mhm.
Extra points for that.
Okay, those are good tips because it's easy to fall into those kinds of messages as a parent.
I think so. And it's also easy when you're getting the food on the table for the kids and I have done this. I've made a nice healthy meal for my sons. I've raced home from work. I've put it on the table. And what am I doing? Standing at the counter nibbling like a snack that is not a proper meal, that is not eating what they're eating. So to the extent that we can engage together,
Mhm.
that's really important.
Okay, thank you. Really good advice. So let's shift for a minute to talking about warning signs. Dr. Archibald, what are some early warning signs of body issues or disordered eating that parents and educators should watch out for?
There are numerous, but extreme focus on appearance, checking your appearance and sort of obsessing over it, weighing yourself frequently, boys or girls, focus on particular social media influencers who are also focused on those things. There are some risk factors around activities, particularly those that really prioritize a certain type of body ideal. For girls, those are often dance, gymnastics, and skating. As you mentioned prior to our call, it was really great to see the US gymnastics team looking much more diverse in
Yeah,
all of the ways this
yeah.
summer. So you want to pay attention to your daughter or son's participation in some activities. I don't think I mentioned the sons, but your sons, but those are often wrestling where they weigh in,
Mhm.
weightlifting for muscularity, um, as well as gymnastics.
And again, many of those sports require limited eating, so it can be tricky. Yes?
It it can be. And as a parent or caregiver, you need to be an advocate for your child, perhaps with their coach. If you see some behavior at home that you think is being influenced by the coach or by the system or the activity, you want to speak to the person in charge because they may not have suggested it. It
Mm,
might be some peer influence around it, but maybe they can best address it. Parents need to have a cadre of other trusted adults around them who share some of those same values.
okay. So again, um, here's a really good we have so many great questions coming in,
Okay,
Archibald, that we're gonna sort of switch over everybody, so know
feel
that
free. I feel like I raced through the beginning, so please.
yeah, yeah. This is a question that I wanted to ask, and thank you, whoever wrote this question. Here we go. I have an 8-year-old transgender girl. Do you have any experience of what puberty looks like for trans youth, and how can I best support her through the transitions that she may or may not like or welcome? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I would say one of my proudest moments being an executive at Girl Scouts of the USA was leading our I still say our, and I've not been there since 2019, our inclusive practices and policies for trans girls or those who identify as girls and want a girl-centered leadership experience. So I do have some experience, not specifically around puberty, but I think as I talked about getting your child, boy or girl, really ready for the pubertal changes early, this is even more important for trans girls or trans boys, right? Because you take in a little bit from the culture, you take in some from your peers, and we know that some um, trans kids have difficulties assimilating with their
Mhm.
now same-gendered peers. So you want to ready them and help them feel comfortable with what they'll be approaching with their pubertal changes. And
Okay.
then keep the communication lines open, you know. Puberty historically has been such a taboo subject, even for parents and kids, when it's just a normal part of health, right? We all go through it. So talk to them, engage with them. If they're a little embarrassed, that's okay. Buy them a book, ask them if they have questions about the book. You read the book too.
Okay, good, fair enough. And you would also probably want to pull in the pediatrician.
Oh,
Sure that
pediatrician, of course. Yes. Pediatrician, perhaps a school counselor,
mhm.
a health teacher. See how they're going to be presenting health to the entire group. Um, and yeah, and then talk to your child. Ask them how it went. Ask them what their opinion was. If they still have questions that you can answer. And incredibly important on any topic for parents and caregivers, if you don't have the answer, you can tell your child you don't have the answer, but that you're going to try to find it out for them.
Thank you. And thank you for that really good question. Um, okay, great questions coming in here.
Okay.
Here's one about these Sephora teens. How can I support my teen daughter's quest for clear skin without making her feel more self-conscious? She has a good body image, but the makeup and skincare routines are crazy.
Yeah, no, just their acne can cause a lot of challenges for some teens, but you're not specifying acne. So more generally, um, I think the skincare routines are crazy for a lot of particularly young girls. Um, but I would start early around like pre-puberty, around you're going to start sweating more. You want to, you want like kind of general hygiene,
Mhm,
things like this. But then if it's getting sort of out of control, who's influencing the out of control? Is it someone she's following on social media? Is it friends? In the same way that you can't always, have the sneakers that everyone else has, you don't necessarily need everything. So maybe she has, you talk to your daughter about what she actually needs and why she thinks she needs it.
mhm.
Direct communication can't be overstated. And then you are the parent. And they probably, as early teens or middle teens, don't have an unlimited budget. So you can say you can pick what you feel is most important for your skin or is most helpful to it. But some of the other things they're just trying to sell you, that's a little like media literacy, advertising literacy. They're trying to sell you, they're trying to make you feel bad because they want to make money. Again, it's a lot, but the beauty industry is big and real.
Yes, and there are products that kids are using, like some moisturizers, like some retinol products that actually make skin conditions worse, not better. Yeah.
I believe that that is not my expertise, but there probably are some retinols that have no use really for young people and could be harmful.
I tried to get my dermatologist to come give one of these talks, but she was too
Okay.
busy dealing with the fallout from all of this stuff.
Certainly, if
Anyway,
your child has a skin condition that can impact their body image, and a professional's opinion will be most helpful. And you can say to your daughter or son, I want to follow Dr. X's, you
mhm,
know, plan for your skin first. We don't want to kind of confuse it or go off plan by adding other things to your skin care routine.
yeah, okay, thank you, good advice. All right, here's a great question. What are the words to use when talking to tween girls to help create a positive body image?
Well, don't be afraid of talking to them about how they feel about their bodies. But I often say, live your values and live what you hope will be your daughter's developing values. So don't talk only about body and appearance. Don't engage only in going shopping together, going to get your nails done, etc. Engage in other things so that that is not the only thing that she's focused on. But the words to use, and it sometimes happens in a car ride. Sometimes it does happen when you're shopping and it's in a fitting room. How do you feel that fits? What makes, what clothes are you picking out to wear to X event and why do they make you feel good? Come to understand how she sees herself and perhaps help her see um, things like fashion, things like makeup or skincare as elements of self-expression, not just ways to become more stereotypically beautiful or meet some unattainable ideal.
All right, thank you, thank you. Here's a question that's a little bit longer, but I think many people can relate to it. So here we go. Speaker asks, my daughter's almost 20. She's not comfortable with her body. She was thin when she was younger, but over time she's gained some weight, stopped exercising, and every time now she looks in the mirror, she says things like, how awful. She doesn't like taking pictures or how she looks in general. I feel bad when I see her, so uncomfortable, but anytime I try to say something, she gets mad at me. Is there a way to help her, or how can I help her?
20 is a tough age because you're still kind of, I mean, you're always part of the family unit, but you're still deeply influenced by your parents and caregivers, but you're also really individuating even more than, in the teen years. And it's upsetting, to watch it happen when you see your child upset. If she says, I feel awful, I look ugly, I feel fat, what you don't want to say is, no, you don't, because that actually reinforces that fat or bigger or something is bad and that there's this ideal that she should be. You might want to ask her how you can help her feel better. What would make her feel better?
Mhm,
You might want to suggest things like going for walks, not a big diet or exercise routine. That's too extreme. Um, but talk to her about how you can support her, the whys, why she's feeling this way, and what you can do with and for her around that. It's not easy. There is no, one easy answer, and it can be devastating. I usually hear that instead from parents, are talking about how they feel terribly about themselves, and they don't understand that even though they're saying those things, they're always saying to their daughters directly, but you're beautiful. Well, the daughters can't necessarily make sense of that because they too think their moms are beautiful and they don't know what to say, even back to, they can't kind of reconcile it. So it's a lot of our automatic responses because we want to kind of, in that moment, we want to get out of that distress and we want them out of that distress. We want to make it all right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you've got to sit in that moment sometimes with them for a little bit.
So you're saying, Dr. Archibald, that it might be worth even saying to your daughter, "I feel badly that you feel
Yeah.
that way." What would help?
Yeah.
What can I say
What,
that would
what,
help?
what, what would help, or how can I help?
How can I help? Okay.
I've heard you say that a lot. How can I help you? I know you're feeling bad about yourself. Um, how can I help you? And if it's, well, you can't, obviously you can't, and very upset. Well, can I connect you to someone or help you find someone to be connected with who might
Mhm,
be able to help you?
mhm. Okay, thank you. Really good advice. All right, here's a question that I know moms want to hear about. Um, Parent asks, how can I make my 11-year-old daughter be comfortable with her changes in breast size? She's always covering her chest with big jackets.
I think for a while, some of that is normal. I think we kind of grow into our bodies. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a year or two. Similar to, I don't know if it was a question or we were talking about maybe a late developing boy earlier. Um, if she is the only one in her peer group who has started some breast development, she might feel really awkward and really out of it. And she may not feel like she can necessarily wear all the clothes that her friends are wearing or that she used to.
Mhm,
So you want to talk to her about how she's feeling. Um, you want to help her choose clothes that she looks good in and feels comfortable in. And again, you want her surrounded, to the extent that you can help this, with girls who are maturing at the same stage and rate that she is. So she's
yeah,
not the only one not wearing, the crop top, and she's in a, big jacket.
that's right. And moms, remember that includes undergarments.
Yes.
Find a safe
Yeah.
place where your daughter is willing to shop to make sure she has the right things.
Right, and fitting and all of that. And it's a great point, and I don't mention this often, Charlene, but a well-fitting bra is incredibly important to make her feel more confident and comfortable in her, the body she's kind of getting to know.
Yeah, yeah, I worked years ago at Macy's in the children's department, and those early training bra appointments with parents was very painful. So just find a place where your child feels comfortable, can be anywhere, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
that's an
absolutely.
important piece of it.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's okay. Like, number one, this is a great way to help her see that she doesn't have to dress like all of her peers, right? And she can see fashion as self-expression, and she can try on, some new things that fit her better.
Absolutely. Um, one of our parents is pointing out that actress Portia de Rossi wrote a great book on eating disorders called Unbearable Lightness.
Mm. I don't know that one, but I'm aware of her background and experience with an eating disorder.
Yes, that's right. Ellen DeGeneres' wife, right?
Mhm, yes.
Okay. Um, Here's somebody for you, Andrea. Says, I'm a Girl Scout troop leader, third grade brownies, and also coach girls sports for my daughter. I want to help them develop their self-confidence and develop lasting bonds with each other. Do you have any tips or advice for how to achieve this as a mentor for groups of girls and boys?
Oh, well, thank you for your service, both to girls and Girl Scouts, and to rec sports and all of that. I think keeping girls and boys in team and group activities is incredibly important. They also happen to be those activities that um, offer opportunities for young people to demonstrate competencies as opposed to just looking good and you know it, competencies, friendships, all of it. One way you can help strengthen the bonds and support all the girls in your group's body image is continually mixing them up for different projects, for different drills on the sports field. Um, Unfortunately, even at third grade, and now I'm veering off to a slightly different topic, but girls tend to click up with those who look like them and they're most comfortable with. But if you continue mixing the group that they wouldn't necessarily align with, they get exposed to a diverse way, a diversity of other girls, and they find different areas of similarity with them that they might not have seen from the exterior or the outside. So I love the idea of continually mixing groups within Girl Scouts, pairing them up sometimes, but again, not with the best friend they joined with, mixing them in project groups of threes or fours, not the ones they were with last year, etc. So they continually realize also that they can relate to all kinds of people. And I think that will strengthen them.
Okay. You told us, Dr. Archibald, that we would get lots of questions, and you are right. So
Okay.
let's see if we can, some of them are longer, but let's see what we can do in the minutes
Sure.
that we have left,
And I'll
okay?
try to keep my answers shorter.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying these are wonderful questions, and I want to try to get to them as much as we can. Uh, Kind of like we were talking before, here's a parent who says, my daughter's 8. She doesn't like tight fitting clothes, which includes bras and underwear. She doesn't want to wear a bra, but she's starting to show. Should I let
Mhm.
her do what she wants since she feels comfortable not wearing one? Same for underwear. Of course, for sanitary reasons, we make her change her pants every day.
Um, I think with when girls are starting what they call breastbudding and starting to show externally, it is better when girls wear even just a sport bra. A sport bra is sometimes cooler or more comfortable than a training bra. And for this reason particularly, it's not really for them. I don't want them to be teased by others who
Mhm.
are uncomfortable by their appearance and the fact that they aren't going through it too. So I don't want her to be teased. If she is not going to wear a sport or training bra, maybe it's a day that she wears, kind of a thicker sweater I know you're in California. I don't know. Do you wear thicker sweaters?
Not really.
Right. We have like a polar vortex outside right now, but something thicker just so it won't, she won't show. Again, for girls and young women, wearing underwear on top and wearing underwear on the bottom is a pretty standard practice.
Okay, I like that sports bra idea.
Yeah, sports bra, kind of cooler. Yeah, might be
Yeah,
more comfortable.
yeah, exactly. Good idea. Okay, so here are two related questions. Both have to do with some kind of food management in different ways. One is has a teen daughter. She herself is entering menopause. The daughter's had a good body image and they've had lots of talks about food, but now the mother is saying, I feel better now going through menopause, eating a high protein diet. My daughter
Mhm.
is noticing that I'm not eating those carbs. How do I manage her perception that I'm restricting when in fact carby snacks on a daily basis aren't good for the mom?
Yeah, I think I would talk about it as different, different foods are more important at different stages of life, if you want to talk about it.
Mhm.
Um, I think I would disconnect it from weight or appearance, right? At this stage, I have more energy when I eat more protein.
Mhm.
Going through menopause, it's really hard to sleep. It's hard to blah, blah, blah. So I need to. And I am a person, if I haven't said it yet, where no food is totally good, bad, or off limits. Um, so I would disentangle that as well. But the real trigger can be connecting carbs is bad, and connecting it to weight, even though going through menopause too. It is challenging, and protein, it's been consistently shown that it should be prioritized for a whole range of reasons, not just weight gain.
Okay. All right, we're going to see if we can get through two more at least. Andrea, are you ready? Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Related question. Parent asks, my daughter is a little overweight according to BMI charts and her pediatrician. She's done ballet since she was 3, but she now doesn't like how she looks in these clingy ballet costumes. She has randomly decided to cut carbs, but I see her mental struggle when she wants to eat versus how much she's actually eating. Aside from meeting with a dietitian and or her pediatrician and increasing exercise levels, is there anything else I can do to support her?
It's really challenging because you see that she's struggling. I would, did we say how old she was?
Um, no.
Okay, well, doesn't really matter, I guess, but I don't, again, you're the parent caregiver. We don't want to totally cut out food groups. That leads to binging, um, because when you've not had a carb for a week, that's all you want. That's all you think about is a carb, right? So and to the extent that you can talk about everything in moderation and in balance, etc., um, I think that's really important. As for not feeling good in the ballet costume, is that like the leotard and tights, or is it the actual costume? I don't know. But if it's a leotard and tights, most ballet schools, unless it's a real strict program, have really expanded all that's acceptable to wear to class. And there's some really nice like little wrap sweaters and things like Lululemon, and even much cheaper brands have a variety of things that can be worn that aren't necessarily the black leotard and the pale pink tights.
Okay.
And you could
Here's a
talk
great,
to the ballet, the head of the school or something.
okay, those are good suggestions. Thank you. This is one we're gonna probably end with, but I think it's a really important question. Writer asks, I have an 8-year-old daughter who is obsessed with sweets. I've tried to make it less taboo and special, but it hasn't worked. She seems to have no control at other people's houses or when they're readily available. She also kind of stores and hoards sweets and food, takes little bites, sucks on chocolate, and has kind of an oral fixation. Is this a problem? I mostly don't want her to be rude or to be made fun of.
Anything extreme is approaching perhaps the problem. But again, I don't want anything totally off limits. So we're aiming at moderation. I had a younger son who's a little like this, and he's a total like fitness. I don't want to say a fitness nut now because now it sounds like he's the extreme, but he really cares about moderation and balance. She's 8. Um, I think it's encouraging balance. I used to often say to my own kids, you want to fill your belly with the good stuff first.
Mhm.
So it might be a practice that after school, there's fruit, there's a healthy carb, like a granola bar or something like this, maybe with chocolate chips if she loves chocolate, and all of this. So you want to fill the belly with the good stuff first, and then if there's room, like they used to say, there's a little room for dessert, or there's a little room, and they'd poke to the space in their belly, and it would be time for dessert. But I do worry about making her feel shame for eating sweets sometimes. And I worry also that maybe she's the one in the house who's eating sweets, but no one else is. So, to the extent that it's dessert time and everyone's eating the same thing, it might just become a little more normalized and she won't feel that she has to hoard it. But everyone's a little bit different.
Okay, so technically we've come to the end of our time, but there's one question I can't
That's
not
okay.
ask,
Oh,
okay?
I can keep going.
All right, this is just really, okay, then we'll maybe go a few more
Go
minutes.
ahead. Yeah.
Great, here we go. Back to the bra question. What do I tell my daughter when she asks me, why do girls need to wear bras? If she doesn't mind being teased, do I need to tell her to wear it?
Well, I mean, it's logical. She doesn't like being teased. It's helpful to wear it. It's not nice being teased about anything, regardless. And you also want to make that clear. Why women wear bras? I'm not sure of the answer. I'm wearing one right now. But it is culturally normative. They become more comfortable as we age. If she is uncomfortable wearing a bra, I always recommend the sport bra or the little athletic tank top that has the little shelf bra built in.
Yeah,
Because that's a nice little like sporty transitional look if she's not ready for the full-on bra. But if you're asking the feminist question, like why she has to wear a bra, I'm not sure of the answer.
a
So,
good question though.
but it's a great question.
Really good question.
And I'm with you and your daughter. But
Exactly, and I agree with
again,
the
those
writer
little
here.
athletic tops with a shelf bra built in or a sports bra are often the answer.
Exactly. As one person just texted, like, I hate bras. We're with you.
I
Okay,
know.
last one, Dr. Archibald. This is
Okay.
an important question too. Mom asks, my daughter is 15, ninth grade, and has been very motivated to lose weight to have a better bikini body. She was 5'2" and 128 pounds after 4 months of doing what she calls a cut and working out at least 5 days a week. She's now 112 pounds. She's very happy, and I'm impressed with her determination. But is this kind of an extreme, or is this a lifestyle too extreme?
I don't know your daughter and I don't know her day-to-day diet, but it does sound like a rapid weight loss. Um, what you don't want to see is cutting out, again, whole and normal food groups, not eating a balanced diet, not eating with family and friends and or avoiding activities because of the cutting. I am all for someone who has weight to lose, wanting to maybe cut out like dessert on during the week or something like this. But I really am not a proponent of any extreme dieting, especially at that age, because she's still growing. Um, so look at her schedule, look at her diet, and if it's feeling extreme for you, you want to have a conversation about it. Um, when you're not, I'm not saying she's starving herself, but when you are starving the outside appearance. You're starving your inside too. That is all your functioning organs, your heart, all of those things. So we want to keep life in the balance and in the normal range, diet, socialization, exercise, all of those things. And you don't want her getting obsessed with trying to maintain an unhealthy weight or weight loss.
Okay, fair enough. And I think that emphasizing to your daughter at 15 that she is still growing, and
Yes.
there's a finite time when that happens, right? So they
Yeah,
really
I think that it's really important and it's totally true. It's kind of like when I was saying, well, I'm in menopause and this is what's happening to my body and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't tend to resonate in the same way with 15-year-old girls, you know. Well, I don't want to still grow, you know.
exactly.
Like, does she have adequate, I would ask the question, does she have adequate energy? You know, is she, I mean, all teens tend to start sleeping in, you know, longer, but does she have adequate energy, adequate interest to still see friends and families? Is she eating normally in front of friends and family, or is she restricting?
Yes, and once she's gotten to that weight, again, mom, do watch to make sure she doesn't continue to lose, because
Right.
then you would worry.
Well, and sometimes when you've had experienced a significant weight loss, you, the individual with the weight loss, get nervous that you won't be able to maintain it. So you get even more restrictive, and you would definitely not want that. But hopefully her pediatrician is engaged and she's seeing them at least annually too. And a pediatrician would then notice a rapid or significant weight loss at least year to year.
Okay. Well, Dr. Andrea Archibald, this has been a wonderful conversation. We've had so many of you saying thank you for this great talk.
Oh, that's great.
We are very grateful. So,
Well, I'm grateful to be here. I thank you all for the terrific questions and for the opportunity to be here tonight. If there are additional questions, I'm happy to have them sent to Charlene and to answer them later.
okay, well, look at, I just love these
I
floating.
love all the emojis.
It's so great. So again, Andrea, thank you, and thank you everybody for being with us tonight. Really a great program, very important topic, great way to kick off the new year. Hope you will take that 1 minute, everybody, and give us some feedback. Thank you, and thank you so much, Andrea. Great conversation tonight. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody. We'll see
Have
you
a
again
great night.
soon.
Take
Okay,
care. Bye-bye.
bye-bye.